My boss told me, "You're lucky to have this job," so I made sure he lost his. I got my first real job when I was 23, entry-level marketing assistant for a mid-sized company. I showed up early every day, smiled too much, and said no problem, even when it was definitely a problem. Typical first job survival mode. My manager, Rick, was one of those guys who thought leadership meant being loud. He loved telling stories about his grind culture and how he earned everything. He'd brag about making interns cry like it was a leadership trophy. At first, I tried to stay out of his way. Then I started to notice a pattern. Whenever we worked on a big project, new client, rebrand, campaign, I did the work, and he took the credit. He'd literally tell me, "You're lucky to learn from the best." After my first year, a huge opportunity came up, a high-profile client that could change my career. Rick told me I'd lead the project day to day. I was terrified but thrilled. Weeks passed. I worked nights, weekends, poured everything into that campaign. Then presentation day came. Standing beside him in the boardroom, Rick did something I'll never forget. Before I could even open my laptop, he smiled and said to the executives, "I handled the strategy on this one. Let me walk you through it." He took every single one of my slides, my ideas, my words, didn't even flinch. Everyone clapped, praised him, and after the meeting, he looked at me and said, "That's how it's done. Watch and learn." The next promotion cycle, he got a raise. I didn't. That night, I cried in the office bathroom ugly, hiccup crying. Then I made a decision. If he could use my work to build his career, I could use his ego to bury it. I started tracking everything. Emails, edits, Slack messages, timestamps, every single time I built something that he later presented. Then I quietly started CCing our HR rep and one of the directors on minor updates, always phrased politely, per Rick's request, attaching the revised campaign draft I completed. 6 months later, another big client came through, even bigger than before. He told me, "This is make or break for us. Don't screw up." And I didn't. I made sure the presentation was airtight. What he didn't know was I'd added one unmissable detail. At the bottom of every slide, in subtle gray font next to the footer logo, it read, "Created by my name, marketing strategy." The day of the pitch, he swaggered in like always, laptop under his arm, totally unaware. He plugged in, started clicking through slides, performing his usual I lead the team act until about halfway through, when the client interrupted. "Sorry, quick question. Who's my name?" The attributions say she created all of this. The color drained from his face. He stammered something about collaboration, but the client pressed again. "We'd like to hear from the strategist herself, if that's okay." The director who'd been silently watching turned to me and said, "Go ahead." I stood up, shaking a little, introduced myself, and ran through the strategy. The client loved it, closed the deal on the spot. Rick sat there, pale, sweating behind his forced smile. 2 days later, the director called me in, not him, and offered me a promotion. A week after that, HR investigated leadership concerns on our team. He was let go. When I cleaned out his desk after he left, I found a sticky note stuck to his monitor. It was one of mine from months ago, where I'd scribbled, "Don't forget your worth." Guess he should have read it. Now, 2 years later, I manage my own team. And once in a while, when someone new looks nervous presenting their work, I tell them the same thing I wish someone had told me back then. If someone steals your light, don't fight for the spotlight. Just change where it shines. Rick called me lucky once. He was right, but not for the reason he thought.